Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be talking about how to derive the treatment emergent flag in a crossover study. In a parallel study, when we flag any adverse event record as treatment emergent, it's straightforward. Since the subject is exposed to only one treatment, we know that the event is linked to that specific drug. But in crossover studies, it is not that simple. Subjects receive multiple treatments in different periods, so we can't assume which drug caused the adverse event without digging deeper. That's why we need to carefully examine the exact exposure duration for each drug. Then, by comparing the timing of the adverse event with these treatment periods, we determine which drug was likely responsible for the event. This drug assignment can be captured in the TRTA column, or for more clarity, we can create a separate TRT XXA variables for each period, where XX represents the period number. This help ensures clear tracking and accurate derivation of the treatment emergent flag in crossover studies. So in this video, we will see the SAS code for such derivation. Now let's talk about the scenario where we are only creating the TRTA variables and we are not creating the TRTXX variables as the first example. So for this video, again, I am creating my dummy dataset for the SDTM AE as well as the dummy ADSL dataset for the subjects which we have in our SDTM AE dataset. So let's run that part of the code and see the resultant dataset first. So right now, in SDTM AE dataset, I have kept only one subject who has experienced 3 adverse events, and we have the start date and sequence variable. Along with that, I have also kept the AE-TRT-EM variables. This is the variable which we have from the SDTM sub AE dataset, which is capturing the information of the treatment emergent adverse event as collected on the CRF. Please note that on SDTM level, we do not derive the treatment emergent flag derivation here. So if in your CRF form, you are capturing whether this event was treatment emergent or not, only then you will have a subcall created in sub A by the name of AETRTEM. And if that is created or in other words is collected, then we can have that variable in our SDTM AE dataset and we can keep the same also in your ADAM AE dataset, but we will also create a TRTEM flag variable in ADAM level with a proper derivation there. So right now for this subject, we have this information of the start date and the TRTEM flag, which was collected on the CRF page. So moving on to the ADSL dataset, here, since I'm only having one subject data in AE dataset, I have only created one subject data in ADSL as well. Now you can see that from the TRT01A, 02A, and 03A column that this subject underwent the exposure of drug A, drug B, and drug C, respectively, in the 3 treatment periods. And the AP01 SDT or the AP01 EDT is having the information of the period start date and end date. That means that this subject was exposed to drug A from 3rd of April 2016 to 15th of May 2016. And similarly, we have the period start date and end date for the remaining 2 periods as well. For this example, please note that I have already derived the period start and end dates. And as per the studies SAP, what is needed is that the washout time period of 7 days was already considered in your period end date derivation. So when I say that the subject was exposed to drug A till 15th of May, it meant that we have already considered the 7 days time period. So in reality, the exposure to drug A was ended on 8th of May, but we have also taken into consideration the 7 days washout time period, because of which the end date of that period has been extended to 15th of May. And same is the case for the rest of the period, other periods end date as well. So when you will be seeing the code of derivation for treatment emergent flag for the washout uh, example here, you will not see that I have added specifically a 7 day window while deriving the flag. If in your study you are not taking the 7 days washout period, or the days, whatever days the SAP is mentioning in your for your study into consideration while deriving the end date of any period, then you might need to consider the washout time period while deriving the emergent flag in your code. So let's go back and see the code here. So right now, what I will need to do is that I will need to merge my SDTM AE and my ADSL dataset, keeping all the variables from both the dataset. So that is the first step which I'm doing here, where I'm creating a ADAE underscore base dataset having all the variables from both the dataset. And as a part of the second step, what I'm doing is I'm using my AESTDTC variable, which is the collected start date of the adverse event in your SDTM AE, and I'm creating a ADAM level variable, which is the numeric date of the start date and is captured as the ASTDTC. So right now, if I go to the first step first, here I have joined the both the data sets, and you can see I have all the information which was present in my SDTM AE along with my variables coming from my ADSL dataset. So in the next step, as I told, that I'm creating ASTDT variable, which is the numeric date variable from my AESTDTC here, and I'm using the input function. Now coming back to the treatment emergent flag derivation. So for the beginning, I'm keeping the variable as missing first, and depending whether the record falls under which period, I'm respectively populating the treatment emergent flag. So let's go ahead and see what is happening. So now the next step which I want to do is, since I want to evaluate that the said adverse event falls under which period, the treatment period, what I will do is I will compare the ASTDTC DT date with my period start dates for all these three periods. So if my ASTDT is falling between the first period start date and end date, then my the TRTA variable will have the value of the drug which was given in the first treatment, which is captured in my TRT01A variable of ADSL dataset, and I will mark the treatment emergent flag as Y. Similarly, moving on, if the date is following between the second period start date and date, then the TRT will have the value of the second drug exposed, that is a variable TRT02A, and similarly the TRT03A if the start date falls between the third period start date and end date. If that date does not falls between any of these scenarios, then we will be keeping the TRTA as missing. So that is my last case as a precautionary step, that if that is the case, then in that scenario, the TRTA and the treatment emergent flag is kept as missing. So in this way, you can create a TRTA variables along with the treatment emergent flag variable here. So let's first check the final data set here. So now you can see that moving that I have created the TRTA and the treatment emergent flag variables. And if you see the AST date for the first record, which is the 1st of August, and if you see the third treatment start date and end date, it is between these two dates. So because of that, this is the TRT is having the information of the third period drug, which is drug C, and it is populated, the treatment emergent flag is populated as Y. And same is the case for the other two records. Now, another point to note here is that although we are creating the TRT-A variable, but we are keeping only one TRT emergent flag. We are not clarifying that this emergent flag was for which period. That is, this drug, although from the TRT-A variable, you can get to know the drug and hence their respective period to which the drug was exposed. But if we want to have this information coming from the column name itself, what we can do is when we are driving this information, what you have to do is that instead of creating the treatment emergent flag variable, you can create the treatment emergent flag for each respective period. So when we are comparing the start date for the first period, and if this condition is satisfied, then we know that the flag, the adverse event happened during the first treatment period. So we can clearly populate the treatment emergent 1FL flag. So from this label, you will know that the treatment emergent adverse event happens for the first study period drug exposure. And similarly, for the second and third, you can create the respective TRT-EM flag in this way. So if let's run this complete code and see the final output. So if you see here again, this is similar to what we have seen for the other scenario. The only difference is that instead of creating one treatment emergent flag, I have created 3 treatment emergent flag, one each for your study period here. So right now, see, the first record, which was the A happening because of the exposure to the drug C in your third period, you will see that my TRT-EM3FL is being populated. So even if I do not check the TRT-A, if I only check these 3 variables, I can easily know that which record this record is for which drug exposure, and I can say that for the second record, the treatment emergent flag is populated for the treatment emergent 1FL is populated. So I know that this AE is treatment emergent for the drug taken in the period 1. So the drug taken in period 1 is drug A. So the drug A is the drug responsible for this adverse event. Similarly, from the third record also, I can say that the TRT-EM2FL is populated. So it means the second period drug, which is drug B, is responsible for this adverse event. So in this way, depending on the scenario or the requirement in your study, you can create your TRT-A as well as treatment emergent flags as per these for each periods in your study in using this SAS code. So right now I have shown you both the scenarios. One scenario is when you have to create the treatment flag for each period, and one where you have to create only one treatment flag, but you have to create a TRT with a variable having the information of the drug which is causing the adverse event. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Let me know in comments if you want me to cover any specific topic. In the next video, I will be covering the treatment emergent flag derivation for crossover study, but how the partial date has an impact on the crossover studies in the next video.